Holy Hey Arnold episode premise, Batman! Tiki here, and I have been watching through each and every episode of Batman Beyond for the first time. Dragon, tell them why we're here.
Well, you see, folks, long ago I made a vow to educate Tiki in the ways of Batman the Animated Series, serving as his spirit guide to Gotham in a way, but that was the past, and we must now enter the Batman's future.
And tonight we are talking about season 2, episode 19, The Eggbaby. Look at that cute little egg baby. Egg baby. God, I don't know what I'm talking about. All right. So, Dragon, I like this one quite a bit. I have one kind of issue with it that I'll get into, but just off the top, really quick, I really like the premise for this. I really like the whole idea of like taking this very basic sitcom concept that I don't know, Dragon. I'm curious. We'll get into it. I certainly never had this in school. I don't know if it's something that was done. I assume it was based off of something that actually happened. I never had it happen. The whole egg, or maybe
It's
I
usually
think I
egg or
remember a sack of flour.
yeah, it's either egg or sack of flour. Those are
Sorry.
kind of the two options.
Yeah, I think I remember something about the sacks of flour. I don't think I took that class though. But anyways, they take a concept like that and they stick it into the fabric of Batman. So you've got really kind of like a good best of both worlds. Like there's kind of almost a Spielbergian sense of humor in this one that I really appreciated. And also Dragon with the Conroy of it all. I mean, Conroy is really I really enjoyed the Bruce Wayne stuff in this episode. I feel like there's a couple really standout moments with him.
Oh yeah.
My great Conroy moment. There's definitely a couple options to pick from. My option happens. Let's just say it happens near the end, and it's one of the few times where I feel like Conroy's trying to be serious, but it
Oh yeah.
comes across and doubles back around to just sounding ridiculous, and I love it. So we'll get there when we get there. Uh, for me, the negative side of this episode is the villain. Kind of seems like a one off. I mean, I kind of get why they did it that way. It's like the focus is much more on the premise of having the actual egg baby. So it's like, the villains they very much seem throwaway. And honestly, Dragon, I just with the mob eagle of it all, I kind of just this trope has never really been my favorite trope when it comes to villains. It just kind of feels like I don't know. It just kind of feels like every time we do it, we kind of cover the same basic gags over and over again, and it's like it just kind of gets repetitive. That whole dynamic of like the idiot sons and the very domineering mother who are, a crime family. I feel like something like the Goldilocks and the Three Bears, not exactly the same dynamic, but I feel like that in Puss in Boots was kind of like an evolution of the trope that worked really well. This is just kind of like, all right, let's do the trope, pretty much verbatim. Not going to have any frills to it at all. But again, I feel like the focus of the episode is on the gimmick of the egg itself. So with the villain being generic and also kind of having a family leaning, I kind of get that. It's just never been my favorite personal villain trope. All right, Dragon. So how do you feel about this?
Yeah. So okay. Well, I guess provide a little context on this one. So the Egg Baby was directed by James Tucker. Now, James Tucker, this was kind of his big break of an episode, believe it or not. Appropriately, break being the operative word there. It's an egg. Get it?
Ah.
Okay, this James Tucker. He, basically he was, he worked on the show. He went on to be a producer and eventually, produced and show ran some of the greats. Like his big prize was Batman Brave and the Bold. That was all James Tucker. He was the one who came up with like, hey, let's lean into the Silver Age, and you can kind of see the inspiration from an episode like this.
Mhm.
Yes,
Sure.
this was his first. From what I understand, this was James Tucker's first directing gig in the DCAU. He did this, and then he got Static Shock. And then, of course, he'd be rolling for other things. But James Tucker's a really cool guy. So this was kind of like his first, like, okay, well, essentially Kurt Gaeta, who was the regular, like top tier director for Batman Beyond, like the regular guy, he went on, he was in the midst, again, season 2, they're working on Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. So basically, it's like, kind of like with Phantasm, like two things are going on at the same time here. So in doing so, they have to pull their best director onto that movie. So it's like, well, we have an opening, James. You want to direct? Do I? Essentially, how that works. The writers on this was Hilary J. Bader, who did. And it was basically Hilary J. Bader and the great Alan Burnett. Is the godfather of the Batman animated shows. Yeah, these two worked together on a few episodes of Batman Beyond. They had worked on Final Cut and Meltdown together, so they are reunited yet again for the Eggbaby.
Mm-hmm.
Studio, brace yourself. Coco with Dong Yang. Some warm, familiar, soft marshmallows of Dong Yang
A little side of scrambled Don Yang eggs, if you will.
Some shells of Dong Yang in the in the cocoa omelet. All right, let's see. So you're gonna love the backstory on this one, Tiki. So this episode was practically was made out of spite. Practically. This is an episode. This is the nickname for this sort of episode is an Emmy bait episode. This was made as Emmy bait.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
So essentially,
that's funny because I feel like when I think Emmy bait, I think of something where it's like a really hard hitting topic, or like like a really you're pushing the animation.
You're not
this
wrong, but well,
Tiki,
you're not far off. See, basically, unfortunately, with Batman the Animated Series, and I guess the DCAU at large, but particularly Batman the Animated Series had like the primetime slot back in the day. It initially had like a primetime slot. Essentially, I mean, I guess it practically had a primetime slot. So Batman the Series got a little bit more attention than the other ones did. And of course, they all kind of aired on different networks as time went on. As we get to the different permutations of the shows, and like the new Batman Adventures, Batman Beyond being on Kids WB, it becomes purely Saturday morning. You get the idea. Anyway, essentially, Emmy bait in this case is that there was this long curse on Batman the Animated Series where they would submit like the Hearts of Ice and the Robin's Reckonings, and those would get Emmys. But
yeah, those are the ones that I would think of that would be Emmy bait. Yeah, in a good way.
But those actually got Emmys. But those were not made with the intention of getting awards. They were just quality episodes. Like, well, we got to submit something. Let's submit our best work, which are these episodes.
Sure.
And they got it. But basically, for so often, as you kind of tell, like the Emmys, they did not really view animation as like a hugely respected medium, and basically they would give to like, okay, what's like a really funny cartoon? What's a really funny or kind of witty cartoon that we can give the Emmy to? So that was the mindset. So that's what the Batman the Animated Series and the DCA was really going up against, and that's why they had Emmy bait. So we submit the most lighthearted kiddie episode that we have, because we've just given up at this point.
That is that is super funny because it's almost like the polar opposite of like the typical Oscar bait mentality.
Exactly. That's because you've seen Batman the Animated Series. You've seen like their hard hidden stuff. You've seen them submit time and time again all these great top tier episodes, only for like crickets, because like, what we're going to give it the Tiny Toons this year, it's going to be or something along those lines. Because Tiny Toons did get Emmys, which of course we know very very tragically with Paul Dini.
Well, we also famously know, yes, indeed.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that's so this was made pure. So in a sense, this is kind of made out of spite. Like, you know what? Let's just submit like the most kid-friendly Batman Beyond episode of the bunch, and we've seen how adult Batman Beyond can get. So this is saying something. This is like the most kiddie episode they've ever made in the entire series, and it actually won the Emmy, Tiki.
Oh my God! Really?
It
for
did.
What specifically? For like best animated series, or
well, it was probably no. Well, I think it was just probably for episode of an animated series.
Okay.
I wish I looked into this specific aspect of it.
Because I forget how the Emmys work. Because I know that you submit an episode, but I forget if that's like to represent the whole show or if it's just for the individual episode.
Well, that's the thing, because I mean they submit the episodes individually like this. I don't know if the whole show gets it. The Emmys for TV might work a little different, because I think certain episodes get it versus the show in total. But I think nowadays the shows in total get them. So I don't know if that's kind of a, but then again, when the Emmys do it now, they submit episodes to represent the series. So maybe Batman
Right,
Beyond
right.
got it, but all I know is like when you look Batman the Animated Series, they always say the Emmy-winning
I
episodes,
mean,
Heart of
season two's
Ice.
had some really heavy hitters. I mean, like, as a matter of fact, just the last episode, like, it was a very funny episode, but it also dealt with some really, really serious subjects.
Mhm.
Like, it was Bruce Wayne's Judgment Day in a way,
Yeah,
But
no, for sure. But that, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you always they always publicize like, hey, Heart of Ice and Robin's Reckoning Emmy-winning episodes, like on the DVD and everything. They always like highlight the Emmy-winning episodes. So it makes me think it's maybe at least then it was more specifically episodes, or at least for the animation. Maybe the live action shows got a little more credibility. Like, okay, it's the show in total. I don't know.
uh-huh.
That's possibly how it went. Anyway, so as I mentioned, we had the whole director thing. James Tucker, this is his big break, and he was kind of crestfallen when he was saying, "Hey James, you want to direct an episode? Do I? Here's your script." And he looked at like the Eggbaby. What? So he's like flipping through, like, "Oh no, they given me like this really difficult episode." And again, I want to say this unlocked probably a realization that, man, I really like the Silver Age. I should lean into this sort of stuff going forward.
Sure,
So it
sure, yeah.
had a literal silver lining there. Anyway, so yeah, like the big eureka moment for him in breaking the episode was, oh wait, I can parallel the egg to our villain with the theme of like the parenthood and everything. Anyway, so one last thing to mention. So Ma Mayhem, the villain in question here, Ma Mayhem, she's a combination of three things. So the main thing in name is Ma Parker from '60s Batman. There's a one-off '60s Batman villain who is essentially as Ma Parker, played by Shelley Winters, and is essentially what you're thinking of as kind of the prototype for the Ma Beagley character.
Uh-huh.
Essentially, it's where the archetype comes from. I think if memory serves, I think it was inspired by there was a real life small timer kind of like criminal who was like a matriarch of a family, and she had like sons doing her dirty work. And I think that's kind of where that idea comes from. It's like an old school idea, and then it gets in the '60s Batman, and then it gets kind of parodied in all the other places. So yeah, Ma Parker is the main influence. Basically, a '60s Batman update for Batman Beyond. There is a character from the Challengers. Challengers of the Unknown, basically DC's knockoff of the Fantastic Four, which is Panama Fatty.
Oh God. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was that time. I forget if actually I'm trying to remember if Challenge. I'm pretty sure Challengers was a knockoff of the Fantastic Four because Jack Kirby worked on Challengers. I'm pretty sure. So
Uh-huh.
anyway, okay. And then lastly, uh, this is the comedic in the room. This is where it kind of clicked for James Tucker and everyone. Like, how do we get a good grasp on what to do with this joke character? And it was this hilarious thing. I think James Tucker said in the room was like, Kingpin in a dress.
Oh my God. I mean, if you look at the design, he's
Yeah,
not
and
wrong.
look
Yeah.
at every basically when she fights, like when they're figuring
Right,
out the
right.
action sequences. There was, well, how do we? Well, okay, well, Batman Beyond has a lot of Spider-Man in them, and well, I mean, it's like Kingpin in a dress.
Oh my God. I love
So that
okay, that actually kind of makes me appreciate the character a little bit more, I've got to admit.
that's the thing. Those are the three kind of like inspirations behind Mom Mayhem. For we have a really campy joke one-off character. So what do we pull from? Well, '60s Batman, Spider-Man, and very obscure Panama Fatty. So okay. And I guess also to mention this, you can probably guess in terms of this episode, it got a lot of backlash when it initially aired. A lot of people were like, "What are you thinking with this episode? An Eggbaby? You give a sneak
I mean,
peek and
again,
you."
I can appreciate the comic absurdity of this setup. Okay, I can appreciate it. Maybe this is like the Batman Beyond equivalent to I've got Batman in my
No,
basement.
it
Probably
absolutely
is.
is. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it really.
yeah.
That's this is
And I
like the
appreciated that episode for what it was too. So I don't know what to tell
so
you.
all I can tell. I'm just saying that's what the general fan response is to this episode, where
Mhm.
it's received pretty much like I've got Batman in my basement, where you have a very select few who might say like, okay, well at least it's kind of funny kid fare, or it has something in it, gambling quality, or they're just going to look at it as like, well, it's the episode we did in every cartoon, like Hey Arnold and everything, where we give him the egg. All right, so let's dive into it.
Okay. So yeah, we start things off with the aforementioned Mom Mayhem.
And our boys, Tiki, Ma's boys.
Yes, Dragon. Okay, okay. Really quick with the boys thing, Dragon. Have you seen the commercials for the movie The Boys in the Boat?
Yes, I have.
Okay, every time I see that, every time I see ads for that movie, I just think of Dooley's Boys. All right. Anyways, I'm sorry. Back on
That
track.
movie looks so ridiculous to me, by the way.
It literally looks like a parody of an inspirational
Right?
sports movie. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so they rode to spite the Nazis. Okay, so they're just rowing.
Dragon, unless you're making a movie about the Winklevoss twins, I just don't care about a rowing sports movie. I just don't care. Anyways,
All right. So, yeah, so we have Ma's boys who are Carl and Slim. So
yes.
they break into a mansion. They basically intimidate the butler, who is no Alfred, by the way, far more scrupulous butler. You
And
know,
I don't
he
know, just the whole dynamic of these characters. Like the whole thing with the he's trying to get the gate through the gap, and she's just like, I don't know, that kind of stuff is just like, again, it's very played out. It's so I'm not gonna lie. I feel like when the episode first started, I was like, oh boy, ooh, this isn't great.
it does feel that's the thing. It feels very much like we're pulling '60s Batman, which you can kind of feel a lot of in these characters, but it does feel really out of place because of that.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Like tone wise with our show. It's not that we haven't had like genuine laughs in Batman Beyond, but never really like in the action. Though, if you ever look at it, we don't really have like gag action with our villains. We just usually have like Terry slice of life comedy usually.
These villains legitimately feel like they would be in like Big Hero 6 the series or something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Yeah. All right, so let's see. So we have
I forget if Big Hero 6 the series ever did a take on this trope. I want to say they did at some point.
but I mean they had like a whole family runner, so I mean kind
Well,
of.
you know what I'm thinking of? Actually, I'm thinking of the mother and daughter.
Yeah, that's the thing. So we had like the mother
Yeah,
daughter duo. So we had like the
I remember
electric.
that. That's actually was kind of like a more. Again, it's like when you do kind of like a twist on it, it's fine. But it's like just the southern matriarch and the two idiot sons. It's just kind of like, okay, like we've been down this road a million times before.
Take it right. Have you seen Blues Brothers?
Yes.
Good man, good man. That's what I was hoping. So, did you recognize the voice of Ma Mayhem?
You know what? It was one of those voices where I was kind of like I wanted to place it, but I was struggling to.
It's Kathleen Freeman. Now, Kathleen Freeman was the Penguin. She was the sister in Blues Brothers.
Oh, okay, okay,
You know,
got it,
the
got
one
it.
who's always hitting them with the one who basically sets up the whole mission from
Sure,
God
sure,
thing. You know,
yeah.
he's always whacking them with the ruler. That's her.
Oh my
So yeah,
god.
she's having a great time here playing Ma Mayhem. So yeah, so they intimidate the butler into
Blues Brothers is another. It's like an example of like you're taking the very, very traditional trope. In that movie's case, it's the save the orphanage,
mhm.
and you're just stretching it to the absolute absurd extreme. That's
Yeah, it's
what
a
I like about
vaudevillian
Blues
premise, like the
Brothers.
Three Stooges are going to save the orphanage, sort of thing.
Sure, sure.
It's anyways. So they get the butler, show him the safe. We see the boys are morons. Like we have like the Carls are going for the cake in the fridge. Slim is voiced by Andy Dick.
Oh my god.
Yes,
Jesus.
Slim is voiced by
What is
Andy
with
Dick.
Andy
Yeah.
Dick in the late '90s having like a voice acting sort of like resurgence?
Well, in this
Because
case,
he
I
was
guess
in
earlier.
this, he was in The Lion King 2. That was, I think, probably his most notable voice role.
Oh yeah, and of course we had him in we had him in Muppets from Space.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, for me, I always remember him from Inspector Gadget.
I honestly just remember him from like the VH1, like I love the '90s type stuff.
Well, yeah.
Like that's mostly what I associate him with. He's one of those types of celebrities for me.
Right.
Anyways.
Okay. Anyway, so also Mark Rolston, who voiced Firefly in the new Batman Adventures, he plays Carl. He plays kind of our lumbering Carl guy. Got a little more range here than he does
Uh-huh.
Firefly. Okay. So Slim uses this Magna bomb on the safe, which like you have like Ma Mayhem backs, kind of like undermining him and kind of backseat, kind of safe cracking him here, which we see just he has it's the Magna bomb is a very effective and very controlled explosion. It evaporates that whole safe with a light show. That's amazing future tech right there. All right. So they go to all this trouble, all for one ruby ring. So I do like her plan. I like the idea this criminal has like a sentimental attachment to what she's going after, and she's very specific about it. I gotta give Mom Mayhem points there. I really do like that
You know
aspect of
what
playing that.
though? I am very much with the Suns in the sense that
Mm-hmm.
like she's literally tossing out like jewels and
Yeah,
gold and jewelry, and it's like really, Ma? Really? You can't pocket a little bit extra? Like I don't know, Dragon. Like I hear you on the sentimentality part. Like I hear you on that being like the main motivation. But to me, it just objectively makes no sense that she's adamantly against them taking other things.
that's fair. Like she probably should have just been like all that,
I'm
all
just
that they're
saying,
there.
it's like while they're there, you know.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, and it's really funny to me because I mean they don't go over this in the episode, so it's not saying that it actually happened this way. But she did have, we learn her backstory is that she was a criminal back in the day, and they went to prison. So it does make you wonder: did Batman have to go after this
That's
ridiculous
what I'm
woman? Like,
saying. Oh
like, did he put her away in the first place? Which I don't think so, because if they did, that would have been literally a ripoff of the Royal Flush Gang. So I
my
don't think they did. Anyway.
god.
So Point Beach just takes the one ruby. I like the old timey music that plays, given the old timey nostalgia vibe there.
There's
Are you?
one particular beat of music that happens towards the end of the episode that I was really impressed by. We'll get there when we get there.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
So
really quick, I want to shout out Kokias in the comments. He says, the excellent writers of this episode scrambled together a good egg of an episode that cracked me up.
that does make you wonder. At any point in the Eggbaby episode, did they just consider for a moment, maybe not seriously, just consider Egghead?
Right. God.
I mean, I get why they didn't do it because it would have been too easy and it would have been like completely campy and hokey and would have taken out the reality. I get it, but it does
Oh
make you
my
wonder.
god. Would have been so on the nose.
It's still
Hey,
funny.
Dragon, really quick. Ask me what my favorite thing to have for breakfast is.
Tiki, what's your favorite thing to have for breakfast?
Eggs. Little Land Before Time 2 reference there. Anyways, moving on. I'm sorry, I had to get that out of my system at least once.
So,
Hopefully, at least someone in the comments got that reference. Anyways,
it's funny though. Nick Cage. You heard that Nick Cage saying he'd like to play Egghead in the Batman sequel, right?
I have heard about that. Yeah, which I'd be down. I'm not gonna lie.
I
I
mean,
think
at the
he'd be
very
really
least,
good.
we could legitimize that with just like a moment of like, it's like a montage of Batman taking out bad guys and just have Nick Cage pop up in a cameo and
Oh
punches him
my
in the
god.
face. Okay, so
Kokia says they weren't legally allowed to use Egghead or any other characters created by Fox.
it's a fair point. That's a fair point. There are nods to '60s Batman and Batman Beyond. One of which we'll get to. There's a big one coming up in the I forget if it's the third season or later in the season two. I think it's season three. We do have a nod to a big '60s Batman nod, but I don't think he's necessarily wrong. There was kind of like it was all over the place. There was the Bat embargo, but technically, in a lot of cases, a Batman series well, sorry, the scratch what I was about to say. Yeah, there's a bad embargo. I never considered '60s Batman being employed in the bad embargo because we use so many '60s Batman characters, but never the '60s Batman characters that were created directly for that show, like an Egghead or like
Right,
the
right.
Archer, like a bunch of the obscure, like Ma Parker, for example. Which again, we have Ma Mayhem, so it's a little bit, it's a derivation. King Tut, for example. As Kogia says here, I heard that they wanted to use King Tut in the animated series since they couldn't. Instead, they used Maxi Zeus instead. So, I mean, that's yep. Right.
All right.
Okay, so point being to get the ruby, get out of there. The butler calls it in, but again, it's so unlike Alfred. This butler, he says like they stole a ruby ring and 20,000 credits.
Okay, well, at least they're stealing some money.
No. They did. He took the credits, Tiki. They just left with the butler. Says
Okay.
he sees all the creds on the ground.
Right. No, you're right. Yeah.
Yep, I'll pin it
So
on
yeah,
the
you're
ground.
right. Alfred would. Oh my god, dude. Alfred, I think, would literally have a heart attack just thinking about the notion of doing that.
Yeah. Okay. So Bruce Wayne calls Terry in school, and he basically, he spares him the slideshow. Yep. Essentially, we have this, hmm. Sorry. Basically, he's giving the lowdown over the phone about, like kind of like a golden age, kind of a golden age revenge plot, essentially.
Mhm.
So she's just going after. There's been a series of robberies for these ruby, basically all these ruby apparels and ruby based jewelry. And he says, he figures that it's building to something, and he doesn't think it's slippers. Slippers before your time. I don't think
Captain
she's making
America's
ruby
just like,
slippers.
I understood that reference, Bruce.
Yes, fun fact: we actually do have a Captain America reference in in a Batman Beyond episode. Okay, so yes, we have the ruby slippers gag. Terry's failing family studies, and we have this great line as he hangs up the phone with Bruce and Casey. How does someone fail family studies?
I feel like that's contender number one for the Great Conroy moment. I
Tiki, they're
wouldn't
all
vote for
great. They're
I
all
wouldn't vote for it like as the final ruling, but it's in contention, I would say.
Tiki. If you look at all the lines that he has in this comedy premise, it's like they're
No,
all
that's what I'm saying. It's an embarrassment of riches.
something I should probably mention. By the way, I meant to squirrel this in somewhere, but yeah, this is kind of a fun. I don't know if that maybe the impetus for this or not, but when they did Justice League, mainly Justice League Unlimited, they started a tradition of like having like at least like one comedy episode per DCAU show or DCAU season, and the problem wasn't Justice League Unlimited when they did. They kind of accidentally aired them like three in a row, and they were trying to space them out a bit.
Oh.
So that's the thing. So you had like three kind of comedy oriented episodes. The Booster Gold episode was kind of a funny hero. You had kids stuff, which you remember kids stuff. They all got shrunk in the kids.
The what now? Sorry.
Kids stuff. Remember they all like Batman, Wonder Woman, Green
Oh
Lantern,
yeah. I
turned
remember
into
that one. Yeah,
Etrigan's a baby. That whole thing.
sure.
And God, there's a third one I'm blank. Oh, this little piggy. The Wonder Woman getting turned into a pig episode.
I remember that one as well.
So there you go. So essentially, all three comedy episodes are roughly or very close in proximity to each other.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so there's a Terry's in family studies class, and with the teacher, Miss Pinto, she poses the question like, "How many of you expect to be parents?" And like Danny's like nudging Terry, like everyone else is raising their hands in the class.
I feel like if this question was posed to a class nowadays, it would be a lot less hands going up.
Yeah,
Just generally speaking, it's just kind of like an interesting like sign of the culture.
well, maybe we're getting more responsible in the future. Tiki, you ever think about that?
No, I'm saying like the future is fucked up, so we have to be more responsible. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
All right, so basically she gives them the big Eggbaby assignment, which counts for half their grade, and Terry needs the pass because she very much hints with her eyes like, for those who are failing, this will count for half the grade. This is your last chance. So basically, you got to feed it, bathe it, rock it, whatever you would do with a real baby. She pairs everyone up. Now, again, this assignment is very much like we've seen this in other animated things. Like it's a trope. It's a huge cartoon trope. It's a huge like school trope. We've seen it with. I believe Ned's Declassified had something like that with the actual toy baby in the home ec class. In Hey Arnold, it's the egg. In Kim Possible, it's the sack of flour, which has Ron Stoppable in it. And he too is on the verge of failing because he keeps killing his baby. That's the
Oh my
difference.
god,
He
I
keeps
actually
killing.
remember that.
Do you remember like Ron? He bought like all these sacks of flour.
Right.
He's been buying all these. Oh, it's great. Anyway, so very very similar premise there. So Nelson gets paired with Max. Howard Groot gets paired with Dana, and Tara gets Blade. No, not Mahershala Ali, the other Blade.
It would be funny if it was just randomly the Marvel character played. Hey, Terry.
Right. So we're co-parenting now, huh?
Oh my god, dude.
Have you seen Mahershala Ali's new movie yet?
What is it?
The one it's supposed it's the one I believe Sam Esmail did the
Oh no, I've been meaning to watch it. I did not know Mahershala Ali was in it. All I knew was Sam Esmail directed it.
yeah, it's him and Ethan Hawke and there's some
Oh,
others, and
Ethan
I
Hawke.
think Julia Roberts.
Nice, nice.
Anyway, I've not seen it myself either, but anyway. Okay, so everyone's paired up. Yeah, let's see. So it's basically this is a high tech version of the old egg flower assignment, which again, as we've seen other things, only difference is it's basically it's the shape. It's roughly the shape of a baby. It's a big egg. It has technology in it, so basically it has like sensors and everything. So it basically exposits there's computer and sensors in the egg, in which we establish very horrifically as Nelson. What happens? What happens if you drop it? So she drops one of the eggs and it's like cracks and it dies like a Tamagotchi. It's horrifying.
It is essentially a giant Tamagotchi,
Yeah,
and I'm not gonna lie, Dragon.
it's a cool
I
idea.
I really like the gadgetry in this episode. It's a little bit horrifying. It's certainly
Yeah,
a little bit dystopian. I'm not gonna lie about that. But just inherently, I think it's really clever, the whole idea of like having the sensors that monitor like how often you're actually holding the thing.
yeah.
Because I'm sure that like most people who did this actual assignment probably just left the thing sitting in their corner of the room most of the time. You know what I mean?
I mean, it stands to reason, but we saw at least three of the guys actually doing stuff with the babies. You know?
That is one of the things I really appreciate about the episode. We'll get to that a little later, but I do really like the some of like I feel like the side characters, especially the male side characters in the show, don't often get a lot to do, but they don't. It's not like they have a huge presence in this episode, but I always appreciate when they do pop up and have stuff to do. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, but still, I like that we established the stakes in Act One here. Okay, you drop the egg; it's going to look horrifying like that, and it summarizes failure.
right, right.
So again, the idea is for the kiddies out there. The kiddies will be horrified with this egg death, which is why they made it a little traumatizing. Cute little egg makes the faces and everything. Like, oh, you say that now, and that thing's gonna get on your nerves. Like, I love how Pinto warns him, like, this is what parenthood is, kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so I guess we demonstrate it, and then Blade, like, she's like, kind of like, hey, you want to hold the kid? Like, Terry just genuinely asking, not trying to pawn him off. Like, hey, you want to hold the kid? Like, yeah, sure. And she's like, she puts it on the desk. It's a book.
Blade is genuinely like the worst like classroom assignment partner ever.
It's funny because she wasn't really always this terrible when we've seen her before. She was, like it was definitely the frisky one of the bunch, but she never really like
But this episode, she's just aggressively bad.
Yeah.
Just aggressively.
Well, it's a plot thing too because we can't have because if she can watch the baby, then Terry has. Why would Terry?
No,
have
but I just feel like it's just kind of like because you're right. I kind of like. I feel like we don't necessarily see enough of her to say that she's written out of character in the episode. Like I wouldn't go that far.
It's only like 3 appearances in the whole. This is the third.
That's what I'm saying. But still, it almost kind of feels like okay, like we almost kind of have to shape the actual character that we're going to give her around this plot convenience almost.
It's kind of a shame, is from what I understand, this is like the last real like time we do anything with Blade ever. So
Oh God, that's a
Not-
very unceremonious last appearance.
yeah. Well, it's a busy show.
Yeah.
Like she ain't the girl in the blue dress, Tiki. I don't have to tell you. All right. So anyway, so she basically dumps. So she drops the baby. Terry catches it thanks to his Batman reflexes. Thank goodness. Saves the baby and he cries and he like holds it out. It's like, what do you do? Like anything you do with a real baby? Like okay, so you got a rocket. Okay, so Bruce Wayne. He calls in the slides yet again. He calls in the slides.
Yep. He's being a little bit more considerate this season.
There's some growth there. There's some growth. He's not the. No, Terry, you have to come back to the manor right now.
Oh my God.
You need to see the visuals. But it's the future. Don't we have like touch screens? Not yet. Go back to the cave. Anyway, so basically he exposits that she's collecting her old score that she had before prison, that she lost, right before she went to prison. So Terry is. I love the mundanity here. As Terry's getting the expo here, he's making a sandwich.
Right.
But lunch, Jim, is interrupted. It's interrupted by Blade dumping the baby off on him. And I like we established that Terry did what he did put in the effort. He did watch the kid, and basically at night it was her turn, so he watched them the whole day, and then pawned him off to her justifiably. He's not just like doing like the cavalier thing of like, hey, watch the kid, I got Batman stuff to do. Like, no, he's putting in the effort.
Yeah, sure.
Blaze is seemingly such a terrible person, at the very least, such a terrible mother in this case. She's like, take the kid. I'm gonna have a date with another guy. The baby cries, and it's like, yeah, well, what? I don't care. She's just going like, I don't care.
Just straight up, man. At least she's honest. She's not trying to come up with an excuse. She's not being passive aggressive. She's just being aggressive.
Yeah. So Terry, I love this. So Terry, so ridiculous. Terry's trying to hide from the world's greatest detective that there's a baby on board in the Batmobile. So it's just, oh god. All right, so basically they're on like they're basically on surveillance here. They're doing a little scoping out of the of Ma Mayhem and her boys here, but that's interrupted by the cooing of a baby, or the crying, the crying of a baby, or the cooing of a baby, and like Bruce Wayne's like, did you bring a baby with you? Oh god, I love like he's initially thinking of all the irresponsible. He doesn't know yet. Like, did you bring a baby with you? It's just like, it's not what. Is it Terry? Is there something? Is there something you want to tell me?
Oh my god, dude!
So like, just switch on your vid link. It's not what you think. See, it's not a real baby. Why am I not reassured? It feels like you and I have had these conversations, by the way.
Yeah, probably.
All right. So anyway, so then he saves the he's gun. There's a gun on him. Baby reacts like someone behind him drawing a gun on him. He basically gives away his position, all the baby crying and everything. There's a little fight with the egg in peril. Again, we can't put children in peril on television, but egg babies all the live long day. Put them in all the peril. Make all the kids tense.
I mean, that is very convenient. And you know what? I feel like that is part of what I like about this episode is that it does get very Looney Tunes with the peril that the baby is put under.
Yep. So he saves the egg, and he's all smiles. You know, the kid's all smiles when he saves the egg. Got some slick animation of Batman running away from the blast.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So he stashes the egg in a dumpster. So I hope the computer can't smell. Literally, baby, you can only get away with this because it's an egg. You put a baby in a dumpster.
That dumpster, baby.
Precisely my point. Yes, we're able to get away with it because it's an egg. So then, of course, the Ma Mayhem and her boys get away. He saves the baby from a garbage truck before it gets crushed to death. Batman dumpster diving. That fella's got to eat.
Oh my god.
That's an Emmy. That's an Emmy joke right there, Tiki. It's an Emmy bait joke.
Sure.
Yeah. We need more Tiny Toons. Paul, give us some Tiny Toons. I'm not even rating this episode.
That
Paul,
does feel like a Tiny Toons joke. It really does.
Paul, just the paper airplane, a page in for us, man. Come on. All right, so the next day, all the dads, in quotes, are hanging out feeding their egg babies.
Yeah, I really like this scene. Just kind of like the dynamics of it. I really like that Terry's really the only one who's not really picking up on the fathering thing. Like Nelson actually is doing a good job of it, believe it or not.
Howard Groot's an overprotective father.
I love that. I love
how horrified they are when he's like deludedly saying, I think I heard it say Papa.
Oh my god.
It sounded like Papa. And they're always looking at him like, what? I love the detail that what they're feeding the egg babies is actually a battery pack, so that's how they recharge the baby.
That is actually really cool. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, that's if you look at it, it has like a plus and a minus sign on the essentially like a plus and minus sign on like the side of the bottle, so it's an electronic kind of like battery. All right, so Nelson. So basically, we see that Nelson's actually we're actually giving a few letters of Nelson here. Again, Seth Green kind of making Nelson likable here.
Yeah.
He's we established that he and Max took on the traditional marriage arrangement. She's the breadwinner, he's the homemaker. Benefit, she's doing all his homework and he's taking all the baby stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So again, it's nice seeing Nelson outside the bully light for a change. And he says, in a long time they might be calling you that, McGinnis. It's like. No, it's like him saying, "You're not so bad, McGinnis," and like he says, "Oh, it's gonna be a long time before I'm gonna let anyone call me that." So Terry has a hesitancy to be a father, and you know what? In this really campy comedic episode, I'm going to try and insert a little seed of pathos.
Okay.
Little seed. I like to think Terry's a little hands off with the whole father thing because of what happened with Warren.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like he doesn't want to burden his own kid with that kind of, especially because with him being Batman, there is an inherent risk there.
Plus, he's already essentially the man of the house in his own home, so he's
Sure,
already
sure,
facing
yeah.
down some fatherly burden that he never anticipated. And obviously, there's some paternal, there's definitely some father figure stuff going on with his mentor, I'm sure. So, there's stuff going on. All right, so okay, let's see. So Blade wants nothing to do with the kid, and we have this hilarious Will Friedle delivery of like, "I want a divorce."
Oh my god.
It's priceless.
I mean, just the fact that it's like it's literally the next day. You assume that he's had it all night, and she's coming up to him, and it's like she won't even take it for a minute, Dragon. Not even a minute. She wants
Nope.
nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Horrible mother. All right, so we have now. This is oh god, I love this. So it's the egg is in the bat cave.
Yes, yes.
Ace is like sniffing it, and Bruce, you can just look at Bruce just over all this. He's just calling out the line. Like,
That's honestly what I love about the episode. It's just like he is just at his most combative and cranky this episode.
he's just like, because he knows it's the most ridiculous thing ever. It's like
Right,
you
right.
really have to lug it around with it, which again, out of context, sounds horrible. Like if this were a real baby, he's like, you really have to lug it all over. Just going like real parents have a way around this sort of thing, right? For a night, it's like, well, I tried giving it to my mom, but it is where the comedy comes in. I tried to give my mom, she's too young to be a grandmother.
Uh-huh.
And what about your brother? Well, I did that for 5 minutes, and I saw him shooting rubber bands at it. Okay, so Terry is stuck with this thing, but he seemingly has put it to bed. He's like fed it and everything. He's this thing should not be waking up. Sorry, before that though, Bruce. It's interesting. Another little layer of pathos here, real quick. I'm overanalyzing completely, mind you. It's just a silly egg episode, but Bruce Wayne, I think, is refusing to be Alfred. He's refusing to be the father figure he had. I think.
Oh, that's a good pull. I definitely think you're overthinking it, but
Yeah,
no, yeah, I could see where you're coming from though.
because think of it, we do it. It's a gag in this episode where you could never mind. We do it's a joke, but still, it's like logically, why wouldn't you just Bruce take the egg so his guy in the field doesn't have to worry about babysitting the egg? But I think just on some fundamental level, it's like I'm not Alfred. I refuse to acknowledge my age of being Alfred here, and I'm not I'm damaged goods. I can't be a father like Alfred was to me. I can't do this.
Yeah, I like
I,
that. I
I
like that.
chased my whole bat family away. I can't do this, so I'm not gonna. Plus, it's like him looking at the ridiculousness. It's an egg. I'm not gonna fail this this family studies thing for you because I'm no good. I don't want to have to admit that failure in myself. I'm not doing that. All right, let's see. So, let's see. Okay, so last stop seems to be the Museum of Fashion. The baby should be out for the night. Ace is licking the egg and it wakes it. This is really cute. Ace is like licking the egg and it's awake and giggling and everything. So he's stuck with the baby yet again. Anyway, okay, let's see. So Terry hides the egg seemingly on a hidden part of the building.
Right, right.
It would seem. I think it's a very reasonable assumption to make. Okay, it's like a little like air conditioning unit somewhere. I'm just going to put it right here. I'll come back for it later. Ma. Meanwhile, uh, oh boy, so she calls like the dummy with the ruby necklace a tramp, which is just really funny. Tramp. So anyway, so they Carl smashes the glass. Basically, there's a smash and grab on the glass. They grab it and Batman shows up. This is getting real old, Batman. Look who's talking. Which is, oh man, that's a sick burn.
Ouch.
It's like, yeah, wow.
Cue the one meme of all the school kids in the fight, and they're all going like, "Oh, you know what I'm talking about? You know that meme?
Dang.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh shit!" So I
Yo,
feel
my
like that was
mayhem
very bad.
sold.
I feel like that's a very bad description of that meme, but you know what I'm talking about, anyways.
Sure. Okay, so Slim has a sandblaster, which is kind of cool.
Uh-huh.
I gotta be honest. When I did our holiday pitch for a Spider for the for Christmas in July with the MCU Spider-Man, before I knew what we could actually bring in like the actual Thomas Hayden Church Sandman into the
Right,
MCU.
right.
Remember, my pitch was before the Sandman gets actual abilities, he would be a small time criminal who uses a sandblaster or sandblaster tech in his crimes.
Uh-huh.
So this is where I got the idea from. Okay, so Batman gets knocked into some displays, and yeah, the action's kind of questionable in this episode. These three are giving him that much trouble. They're knocking him into some displays.
Well, like I said, the action in this episode really isn't the point. It's more just kind of like used as cartoon slapstick for the most part.
Yep. Let's see. Carl gets pinned. He cries for Mama. Mama. She hits Batman with the purse. Actually knocks him back for a moment there, and then she steps on her own son. Like, no one hurts my boys. As she's like stepping on his back. Let's see. So he gets knocked into some giant shoes. Again, all of this, I think, to avoid seeing Batman on a kid's show punch an old lady.
Sure.
Let's see. So we have the camouflage El Camino. Seriously, their getaway vehicle of choice. It's a futuristic El Camino. So it's like Jesse Pinkman's car of choice. With the baby on board, unbeknownst to them, that little like hideaway actually was camouflage. So they're flying away with the baby on board. Batman's in a panic here. This is not good for him. Not good at all. Now, we have a comment here from Code Geass anime fan. There's a Carl in Batman Beyond? That means we have another handmade Carl added to the Carl gallery that used Infinity's for Code Geass. I knew about this Carl. As you can imagine, I knew about this Carl. I contemplated putting him on the list, but wanted more name brand Carls. This is a random Carl.
This is a very random Carl.
Yeah.
Is Carl from The Simpsons on this list?
He is.
Okay, good.
This is why you gotta at least watch one episode of the show.
Right.
Because we do it like almost every episode. We go to like the dang it Carl chart. It's like dang it Carl, and then we throw up the chart.
All right. Batman's not allowed to hit old ladies.
Well, I think at the very least on essentially a kid show, they don't want him to hit old ladies. Of course, he can hit old ladies. I mean, like, live long until his arms fall off. He can hit an old lady, but I don't think he wants to.
Now I'm just picturing Robert Pattinson Batman in a fight scene with Helen Mirren.
I mean, we had we had like Captain Marvel hit an old lady, and it worked fine.
True.
Honestly, I think what they probably could have gotten away with instead of like him punching an old lady is like if he just shot like the batarang disc like right at her head, like to like bash her, like bam, like not like impale her or anything, just like bam, like whack right in the head.
Code Geass says he thinks it would be funny to have a completely obscure Carl on there, like this episode's Carl.
And yeah, Shazam did beat up Helen Mirren. Well, I mean, really, she got the better of him, but he got a few hits in.
All right.
Anyway, so we're beginning to enter our third act here, where Terry is in pursuit. Here we go. Terry's in pursuit. I lost him. Then we have one of the great lines of the episode.
Yeah, this is my great Conroy moment. Like I said, it's just like it is probably the most pathos-filled line of the episode from Conroy, but it's also just like loops back around to just being ridiculous.
It's great absurdist comedy.
That's a doll you're talking about, not a life. That's not a lie. That's not the lie, but it's just kind of setting it up.
Him? That's a doll. That's a doll you're talking about, not a life.
Right.
And Terry is just, I love Will Friedle here getting some really great comedy here. It's like, Terry's just so ticked off. But, well, yes, if that's good. Yes, but if I lose it, I'm going to fail. I'm going to have to take family studies all over again. Have you ever taken family studies?
That's a great Will Friedle delivery right there.
He's just yelling at Bruce Wayne. Like,
that feels so Ron Stoppable-esque.
It is. It's like the gruff version of Ron Stoppable. Ron Stoppable, like, had some backbone. This is the fact that Terry's never really snapped at Bruce like this, like in a big way like this. So this is kind of funny. I can get away with this. It's like, have you ever taken family studies?
Oh my god.
So Bruce suggests, oh god. Okay, so let's see. So Bruce Wayne suggests tracking the frequency of the egg, of like the computer in the egg, like the cries and the sounds and everything. Basically, track the frequency, unless they made an omelet out of them. It's like, oh hey, just again some good back and forth. And in a serious note here, this kind of episode and this the line like that back and forth between because they're recording them both of them in the room and everything. Again, Will Friedle really did look to Conroy's mentor. They really were friends, and they did have like that mentor dynamic you do see in the show in real life because it was his first time really doing voice work as well. And Conroy was the original guy whose first voice job was Batman, so it was very much a snake eating the tail in that regard. So, giving them like great banter and back and forth like this, even in a comedy episode, I think it does really speak to like, these guys were in sync with each other, you know.
Sure, sure.
All right. Okay, so Mom Mayhem, she's in her hideout with the boys. Again, she's actually succeeded in all of her goals up to this point. She's got all the rubies. She's got the whole set. Slim calls out the logic here of like, well, why? We could have stolen so much more. This is a ridiculous caper. It's like nothing's worth more than this. This is the first thing I stole with your dad.
All right, and then we kind of skipped ahead just a little bit. That we kept back to Bruce and Terry. They've got the signal on them, and Bruce says, "Be careful, Terry. It's not worth risking your whole life for an egg."
Well, that comes after that, Tiki, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you're right though. It's excellent.
I just want to make sure we don't miss it because
I
we
know
all.
we're not going to miss it. We haven't gotten to it yet.
I'm just saying we queued it up, and so, anyways.
Right. Okay. All right, let's see. So we have this gag about the father, where it's just like, well, Dad's not dead. He just ran off and just slaps him like, "Don't talk that way about your father." Okay, so they find the baby, and this like they're poking in, just like Slim's just poking, trying to figure it out, and they have no idea what to do. Then so Terry's got a lock on him, and Bruce. This is when Bruce says, "Oh, Terry, remember, it's not worth risking your life for. It's an egg." Just really funny. Just like it's just an egg. Don't risk your life for an egg. It's good advice, and just Bruce putting in perspective, like Terry, Mary, don't get shot over this thing. It's just the school assignment.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
So let's see. So Ma then takes it and says, "Oh, this reminds me of you boys," and then she gives it like one rock,
Just
and
instantly gives up on it.
basically it's like one rock. Okay, kill it. It's very campy.
I feel like she gave it a couple more seconds worth of attention than Blade did, at the very least.
Absolutely. At least she
I
held
mean,
it.
Blade didn't want to kill it, though. That's the trade-off.
I mean, she didn't care what happened to it, though. She like abandoned
True,
it. I mean, she
true.
doesn't know how good a parent Terry is. I mean, clearly he's kept it alive for a day. That's all she really knows. Like, okay, well, I guess it's alive. All right. I think she doesn't care. Terry does. That's her ace in the hole.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I just love like one rock and then kill it, which just speaks volumes about her parenting style, what she did with these boys. All right, let's see. So I love that Carl is like the one with the heart here. Carl is the one who's like, "Are you sure? It's kind of cute. Like, are you arguing with mother? I mean, we could sell it." Carl, okay. And we have the money shot of the episode. I'm sorry, real quick before the money shot. Good guess. It can be argued that Carl Beaumont is an obscure Carl. F you, Code Geass. He is not an obscure Carl. That's Carl Beaumont. That's Stacy Keach, darn it.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, so we have the money shot here where the egg is dropped. The egg toss, if you will. We have the egg toss.
Indeed.
Batman flies up, he catches it. And this is probably the big promo shot, as you can probably guess, where it's like the egg and Batman sticking their tongues out in the very anime pose. Like, meh. As they fly off, he saves the baby. Big old firefight breaks out. The baby loves the ride, by the way. The baby's like having a grand old time, which pays off by the end of the episode. He's grappling onto he has like the egg in like a little backpack and everything. Like he's going the full Baby Yoda with it before there was even a Baby Yoda.
Basically the equivalent of like taking a baby on a bike ride or something.
Yeah. It's kind of the full rerun from the Peanuts,
Right.
All right. Only Terry drives safer. All right, so he grapples onto the El Camino. Carl and Slim, like they're this is a weird censorship thing too. We've kind of had for all the DCAU stuff. we can't show vomit. I'm not necessarily complaining, but it's always like a thing.
Honestly, I didn't think the vomit was necessary. It was like one of the few moments where the humor just really didn't work for me.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they've done a vomit gag staged like this before with Batman. Already had, but it was like a biological thing where the whole environment was, like he was suffering from intense vertigo from Ace, so he kind of threw up, but it was like kind of off. It was framed out.
Right.
We kind of do that here, but here it's more of like a gag. It's like, oh, this is what I always wanted. You boys and me on a caper, just like with your father. So she's having a good time here with this. It's keeping the thrill alive for her. Anyway, so he slashes like the power part of the power elements of the car, the electronics, and it goes down. It crash lands. Got some bat tear gas going on there. He kind of pulls some stealth moves here as he tricks Slim into sandblasting Carl, and then he takes out Slim. And then we have the Kingpin in a dress fight.
Yes.
Oh, good. So let's see. So imagine casting D'Onofrio in this role, Tiki.
I could see it.
He's got range. He could pull it off.
It would be a less ridiculous performance than Jurassic World.
Yeah. All right. So you have Terry versus Ma Mayhem, which again, Kingpin in a dress. She's every time she stomps, she cracks the ground underneath. So they're definitely going for full Kingpin here.
I could see her in Smash Brothers.
There's the big bit for the kids where the kids would be freaking out here, where she's about to stomp on the egg. He turns at the very last second before getting his spine and that egg crushed. Then he cuts the purse of the battering. I love we're framing this very low stakes kind of fight, where Batman can very easily win, really. Which is we're going like the John Woo action thing here.
And also I need to mention the music, Dragon. The piano chords. I mean, they go unnecessarily hard with the music here.
It's so funny. It's such an intense battle. We're playing.
It really is, man. They really ramp it up.
We're playing it almost as if it is like that alley scene in Daredevil, Daredevil. It's the big battle with the Kingpin. And he cuts the purse strings. Then she goes over the side. She goes after it over the side, which is a really good solution to that, by the way. She's obsessed with the ruby. She goes over the side. Batman has to, the fat lady's essentially sung here, and Batman has to catch her. Yep. So he catches her with the bat rope. The very last second, probably getting a hernia in the process, and she holds on to the loop, but she's holding it upside down. All the jewels fall.
Yeah, good comeuppance.
Yeah. Okay, so then we have our ending coda here. So we're in the class, the family studies class. Essentially almost everyone in class got a C because they followed basically they didn't kill it. That's the main. If you don't kill the egg, you get a C. But there was one single pair that actually stimulated the kid and gave the kid the excitement like a real kid would have. Terry and Blade, really Terry, not Blade at all. Blade's just sitting there fiddling with her nails. She's not doing anything. It's all Terry, and they all know it was all Terry too. No one in the class is thinking Blade did anything. I love it. It even seems like the teacher knows. She's directing all the praise to Terry, not even Terry and Blade. So it's you seem to be ideal father material, Mr. McGinnis. So this is kind of funny. As a kid, when I was a kid, I never really got this gag until adulthood. What exactly was going on here? So all the girls in class they're looking really impressed with Terry, and Terry's oh boy.
Oh God.
Yep, so it's oh boy, they're Terry's definitely father material to these girls.
That's funny.
And it could be
You're just okay, that's a weird note to end on. I don't quite understand.
Why don't you look at them? Basically, as a kid, I think the way I read it is because Terry didn't seem nonplussed with it. It's I guess there's a negative connotation with that or something. But in the end, Terry, again, with the pathos things, I guess, Terry, maybe shouldn't poo-poo the whole fatherhood thing. I don't know.
I guess so.
Well, I mean, in a sense, it's him kind of he's, maybe he does have a little more Warren McGinnis in him after all than he gives himself credit for.
The Alan Grant ending, Dragon.
Sure.
All right.
Also, eggs in that movie.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, there was like an egg heist of sorts going on in those
Yeah,
movies
the
too.
eggs that you know what the eggs heisted, Dragon?
Yeah.
The tour, the goddamn tour.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, would have prevented all that, would have saved all the problems in the movie. You know, would have just made everything go by so much more swimmingly.
Oh God.
They just sat down, listened to the whole attraction, and held all
The
their
eggs
questions.
were going to be there when they got off the damn ride.
I mean, they were
This
gonna
man is hosting you for the weekend on his own dime. The least you can do is enjoy the theme park attraction that you're there to observe. God damn it!
I mean, he put a lot of work into it. For all we know, all those scientists are like they're on cue, like it's part of the attraction. Essentially, they're all just there. It's
Oh
it's
my
like
God.
poor BD Wong there. It's just going,
Edie
Doctor
Wong's like, I'm eventually going to be the main bad guy of this franchise, kind of.
Yep.
All right, Kogias, that might be the first time you've heard us rant about that. Anyways,
Yeah.
Sam Neill would be a good Bruce Wayne and to be on film.
Yeah.
That's kind of random, but I agree. I actually agree.
I mean, a buddy of mine in the past recommended.
Just Hunt for the Wilder People, I think, is a good indication of that.
Well, Sam Neill's a great actor. Period. I mean, but,
Sure.
yeah, a friend of mine way back, he always suggested like he really likes Stallone, so he suggested like maybe Stallone as old Bruce Wayne because with the gray hair look and everything now, it's like,
I think the problem with that is that Stallone is just so like you can't separate him from the character. You know what I mean?
You know what's funny though? I think I've told you this before. There's a documentary about the making of Sandy Calora's Batman Dead End. Batman versus the Predator.
Yeah, right.
And originally, when they were making that film, he was courting Sylvester Stallone. So Stallone said yes to playing Batman in a fan film, but then he kind of, I guess, his agents or his representation said it's just a fan film. You don't want to if legal, like if anyone like goes after him legally for this fan film, you might be in trouble. So he ended up not doing it. But when Stallone said yes, like Mark Hamill was going to play the Joker in live action for this fan film, but when they lost Stallone, it all just went belly up. Anyway, so yeah, that's it.
All right. So final thoughts, Dragon. I don't know. I don't hate this at all. I think it's perfectly fine. I think it's. I mean, if anything else, it gives us a lot of really good back and forth banter between Bruce and Terry, which I kind of live for anyways. So is it the best of the season? No, not by a long shot, and it's kind of ridiculous that it was the Emmy episode of the season. But on its own, I think it's a fun little diversion.
Yeah, Eggbaby's always been a fun one. It's definitely not top tier, but it's better than people give it credit for. I know for me at least, this is not the worst episode of Batman Beyond. There is one other, and I think we're getting to it this season. Not soon, but in a few episodes we're going to get to the worst episode of Batman Beyond, in my opinion. So yeah,
I might end up liking it.
I mean, we'll see. You might like. I don't know, but yeah, it's. I know it has one element I think you're really going to like about it, because if I recall, I think Patton Oswalt plays one of the roles in the episode. So you might like the Patton Oswalt element, assuming that is him, if I'm remembering correctly. But it's anyway. So there is a clunker in the bunch, but we'll see how that stacks up. Regardless, yeah, Eggbaby's a fun one. It's pure and simple. It's a nod. It's basically Batman Beyond's take on '60s Batman, which is, how can you not at least appreciate that?
Indeed.
As Code Geass says, this episode had a carton of good yolks.
All right. So, Dragon, tell us what's up next. And, of course, thanks to Code Geass, as always, for joining us in the comments.
Max kidnapped by a terrorist?
Hold on. That's got to be the most dramatic first line of any of these you've ever done.
Well, now I got to do it over again.
That took me off guard, man. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway. Max kidnapped by a terrorist? The government in pursuit? A synthoid with a soul? Can Batman get to the rogue robot before the NSA? Could this lead to a Beyond version of The Fugitive. Tune in next time to find out. Same animated bat time, same animated bat place.
On the next visit to Batcave Beyond with Zeta.
Terry, remember, it's not worth risking your life for an egg.
It's my turn to hold the egg.